Welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura and I am an English literature major currently studying for my master's degree. Yesterday I had therapy and I really had like this big revelation, I guess you could say, that it's part of the journey as you're healing and everything like that. It's just, I don't even have the words for it, but in therapy, we were working off this textbook for one of my situations. This workbook is called the CBT Workbook for Adult ADHD, and I've skimmed through it, and there's a lot of good stuff in here, but I haven't actually sat down and worked through it. So yesterday we did. Basically, one of my issues, which is one of my biggest issues as someone who has ADHD, is personalization. That is something really hard that I'm trying to get out of doing, because I basically take everything to heart. I personalize everything. This specific situation that we were working through was very interesting to work through because it felt like it should have been personalized, but in the end it's not, if that makes sense. Well, so what happened was that I basically don't have a job at the end of August. Where I'm working now, I started off as a part-time employee, and then 8 years later, I finally had the free time to become a full-time, and when they offered me again, I was able to say yes. But unfortunately, around the same time, not only I had surgery, but my mental health kind of took a huge nosedive, and it affected me so much. I barely passed the one class that I was taking last semester. I decided that for this upcoming semester to go back to part-time, because I had that option earlier when I was talking about my situation. Your girl needs money, so I just decided to stick through it. Turns out that I can't do that anymore, as in that position is already filled or will be filled eventually, so I can't go back to part-time. She didn't really give me much detail. She just said that she couldn't have 2 part-timers. And this is like the long story short version of what happened. But basically I told them that like I can't work 40 hours plus take 2 classes and take any editing job that they would offer to build onto my resume. So so basically by September I won't have a job. I won't have a job. And I was taking the reasons why they couldn't give me the part-time position like really personal. And so we turned to this page on the workbook talking about thought challenging. And right here it says, thought challenging isn't about replacing a negative thought with a positive thought. It has to feel realistic. That's one of my issues too, which it goes to personalization. However I feel or all my thoughts don't stem from reality. Taking a step back from your thoughts, slowing down your mind and considering things from a different perspective allows you the opportunity to investigate or challenge them. And then it has a bunch of lists. It has a list of questions. Challenge your perspective. The first question really got to me. The first question is, what is the evidence or proof that my thought is true or not true? And that is something that I have been trying really hard to work with, especially with my personalization issues, because I realized that a lot of my thoughts aren't true or they're not based on reality. Right? I have to back up a little bit. They did ask me if I could try doing 40 hours. Like I guess I technically quit as opposed to them firing me. Yeah. I basically quit. After I told them that I wanted to go part-time, it took them a couple days to like finally respond. I think I sent it like on a Friday. And I did a tarot card reading on myself because I do practice tarot card. That spread was pretty wild. It was just all major arcana and all transforming next chapter cards, basically. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get fired. And then before I did the spread, logically in my head, or not logically, before I did the spread, I automatically thought of 3 different options. Either they were gonna fire me, I was gonna quit, or best case scenario, I would go back to part-time. Turns out I was right about combination of the first and second options, right? So that one was pretty interesting. I didn't tell my therapist doesn't know that I read tarot cards. Going back to the question of what is the evidence or proof that my thoughts are true was basically just going off of that idea of like my 3 options. After we worked through everything, a long story short, in my therapy session, I had a realization that this was the first time that I wasn't catastrophizing. Because that's another one of my issues. Catastrophizing is basically expecting the worst. You would expect the worst to happen without considering likely alternative outcomes. And I had to ask, I was like, was this me catastrophizing, or did I actually realistically react and thought processed this whole situation? And I did not catastrophize. There were a little challenging moments that did kind of personalize the situation, but overall, I handled it pretty well, I guess you could say. I'm not really that upset that I won't work for that company anymore. In reality, I knew that the time was coming. I'm in my master's program. I'm gonna apply for a PhD program. I didn't want to make a whole career out of that industry, but they were very helpful in providing me an income and still being able to accommodate to my school schedule. But I did kind of figure that I was pushing it. So I knew the time was coming. It just happened sooner than I thought. And that's where I guess the disappointment comes from, because I had these big plans for the fall in which I needed money for. But I guess we'll see where the journey takes us. I might prematurely soft launch my Patreon. In case you guys want to help me out, there is a $1 tip jar tier in which basically you just help me support my channel, because my last day of working is going to be the end of August, and I do have enough saved up to not need to worry about a job for 1 more month. 1 or 2 more months. So I guess we'll see how it goes. You know, I really wanted to focus on school, but now I might need to focus on other things again. But if you feel sorry for me, you're welcome to subscribe to my Patreon.
It's been 20 years since I died at 22. Back then, I knew that that's all I wanted, and that's all we wanted. But I can't stay here. For you, I'd stay, I'd stay. And in my starlit dreams, I see the sheen, the honey sweet for 20 years. He lies in the heart of the sun. Stay with me for 20 years.
So I literally just filmed and posted a book haul, and I already bought more books. They were kind of impulsive but necessary, or at least I'm telling myself that to justify the fact that I bought more books. The first book I bought is Everyone Knows You Go Home by Natalie Silvestre. The reason why I bought this book is because I was reading La Familia Izquierda for my thesis, and after I took notes and visually annotated after I took notes and flagged all my annotations to see what I could use for my thesis, I realized that I don't think it fit as well as I thought it was going to fit. I researched more magical realism books that are out there that meet the criteria for my thesis, and I found this one. It's basically about a woman who meets her dead father-in-law and they both go on a journey to help him get his family to forgive him for the things that he did when he was alive. And it sounds beautiful. It's a border town novel as well, which, if you don't know, a border town is basically all the towns and cities that are next to the Rio Grande, basically the Mexican-American border, which is something that I'm looking into for my thesis. It sounds like it's gonna be a fun read, so I'm excited to read it regardless. And look how pretty the colors are. I'm excited. I really do think this one is going to fit more, and if not, would I have wasted my time? Maybe a little bit, but maybe it will still be worth it. The second book was kind of this one was straight up impulsive, because while I was researching, I found out that Ana Castillo came out with another book, and this one is called Doña Cleanwell Leaves Home. And I love Ana Castillo's writing. I've read So Far From God recently, and I fell in love with that book. And so when I saw that this literally just came out this month, I wanted to purchase it to support her. This is a book of interconnecting short stories, so I don't really know what it's about, but I'm, like I said, I'm excited to read it. And the last book that I impulsively bought was The Haunting of Alejandra by V. Castro. I'm not gonna lie, I did just really love the cover of the novel, but also I don't really read horror books, and the fact that this was from a Mexican-American author, it just kind of buy it, I guess you could say. I don't know. I read some reviews and they said it was a good book, or I read some pretty good reviews on it, so I think this will be a fun experience as well. We'll see. Except for the first novel, I don't know if these are gonna make it onto my summer TBR list. If anything, I kind of want to read scary horror books in the month of October, and The Haunting of Alejandra probably will make it on that specific list. As for the Ana Castillo one, I guess we'll see when I have time to actually read it. Hopefully this summer, especially because it's so short and it's a bunch of short stories. So I'll probably see how that goes.
He was in the heart of the sun. Stay with me.
I just wanted to give a quick update on my reading progress. I started Everyone Knows You Go Home, and I've read the first. This is how far I've gone, and honestly, I'm really enjoying it so far. This is the first time that I feel like I've picked up a book and like from the very first sentence it's just been fast-paced reading, enjoyable in a really long time. I heard it's an ADHD thing, but being forced to do things makes you want to do things less. So since all I've been reading are books related to school, it's just been really hard to pick up a book again that I really like. Though technically this one is for school, it's just been enjoyable from the very beginning. I'm only 100 pages in again, but I'm already in chapter 16. I feel like I could definitely finish this by the end of the weekend. Today's Friday, so I feel like I could definitely finish this by Friday, so I could pick up another one of my books that were originally in my TBR list. So yeah.
For 20 years.